Buongiorno. It's raining today, pretty hard, so it's useless for me to go outside and do something in the field. Um, it's a bit late for it, but to start sowing, so we planted everything yesterday, so it's actually pretty good that now it is raining, because usually when you plant something and then it rains and then the sun shines, it goes sort of explodes in an explosion of growth. And that's something that I wanted to talk about, hence the thumbnail. It's because before spring really started here, the official spring, I was sitting down in the valley because I wanted to go see what might be growing there and what wasn't, for foraging, which I do quite often. And I was just, well, there's a meadow there, a rather large one. And I went to sit in there just to listen for a bit. There's wild animals running around. Sometimes you can hear the boar. If you're very lucky, you can see deer running by. They're very skittish. You won't really see them. Wolves you won't see there. But they are there. You just won't see them. You can find their tracks. Sometimes you can hear them. But in any case, I just wanted to sit in the meadow for a bit because it was one of the first real warm days. And while I was sitting there, I found a little stick right next to me. And I just started to make doodles in the dirt next to me. And without really thinking about it, I started to draw some runes, in particular the Fehu rune. And this wasn't something that I was doing with a real intent behind it. Just happened while I was sitting there, as I was thinking that this meadow there's a lot of things growing there, but not a lot of forageables in the meadow. And I was just thinking, like, how great would it be if there were more edibles growing in this valley, in this meadow in the valley. And that's why I was drawing the Fehu rune with that in my mind, like, oh, I would very much like there to be more expansive growth of edibles or forageables in this meadow. And this worked out in a way that I didn't foresee, couldn't have foreseen. That same week, because I went on a Monday, pretty sure I went on a Monday, or early in the week at least, I had the doorbell ringing, and it was one of the Americans that bought a house here last year. And they invited me to a dinner that they were going to have with some other people, other Americans, and some of their family and friends. Some who also have a house here and some who were just visiting. And then also a couple of locals, including myself. And there was a purpose behind that meeting, because the guy talked to the owner of the castle, for instance. And everybody kind of agreed, like, yeah, it's a shame. We really want to bring new life to this town, especially a sort of miniature economy with local products, because the neighboring villages do have that, especially Bagnoregio, which is quite famous and beautiful. If you're ever in Italy, definitely go see it. Just go outside of the tourist season. Highly recommended not to go during tourist season, because it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. You do have to pay to visit Bagnoregio, but it's €5, I believe, per person. It's not much. And it's worth it. It really is. And that money goes to the upkeep of the town, which is the dying town, because it is slowly crumbling away because of the sort of rock it is built on. Anyway, that's not the point. We were talking about that we would like something similar. And there is an organization here that's called the Proloco. And they do similar stuff, but they mostly do organize little events in the town that bring in a little bit of money that then goes back in the Pro Loco, and then they can have another event for which they have more money, that sort of stuff. So it doesn't really go beyond any of that. But during that talk, we had a talk about, well, how could we do this? Bringing a sort of miniature local economy to this town. And then later, that was, I think, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, something like that, one of my neighbors, well, my only neighbor, approached us saying, guys, I have an idea. I have a field. In fact, he owns many fields here, one of which is a shame that it isn't being exploited because it's very fertile. I just don't have the time for it, and I don't want to hire people to work on it. So how about we start a farmers co-op? And I was immediately interested. I have thought about farming a lot. There's definitely room here for it. There's a land to the deed of this house that I don't want to exploit for farming because it's a wolf habitat, and somehow it seems like it would be unfortunate to do that. Not just for the wolves, but also for myself. I don't think it would bode well for my own Hamingya if I drive the wolves off their territory. So I won't do that. Instead, that happened with my neighbor. And now I'm part of a farmer's co-op. In fact, I have become a farmer. I don't have pictures of it yet, but if I do, I will definitely post them on my Instagram account because it's quite cute. In those couple of hours each day that we went there, I learned more about farming than I did in my entire life. And I had to think about it today, actually. And it's raining anyway, so I had time to make this video. That I think that when I was sitting there in that meadow, drawing that Fehu room in the ground, that even though I wasn't consciously doing it with the intent of doing Runic magic, and Runic magic is folk magic after all, but it worked. And it worked in a way that I couldn't have foreseen or didn't foresee. All I really wanted at the time while I was doing that, sitting there, is just to have a bit more edibles in that meadow that I could go forage. And now instead, it's become farming, a farmer's co-op, an economy with local products. And just goes to show that magic, however small it can seem at first, can have the most unexpected outcomes. Welcome outcomes as well. I'm really happy with how things are going, even though I couldn't have foreseen it. Well, in a way, I would have wished for it, hoped for it, but I didn't really hope for it. Do you know what I mean? Well, yeah, it just is what it is. But that is just one example of runic magic that I didn't even think about at the time. I just did it. I just did it without thinking about it. And then the outcome, looking back. Yup. I know there are probably many people that think that I'm absolutely nuts. It's just a coincidence. Maybe it is. Nevertheless, isn't everything a coincidence if you're going to think about it like that? For me, it's just more proof that magic is very real. And especially because I do have that heritage, that the DNA, the genetic lineage there, that's folk magic. when it comes from your own, yeah, from your own ancestral line, really does work. And this is just one of those things that proved it for me. So what can I say other than that the runes are very real, very magical, and you should definitely give it a try yourself.